Cape May County Freeholder-Director Jerry Thornton. He was selected to represent the region on President Obama's Hurricane Sandy Rebuilding Task Force Advisory Group. The purpose of the advisory group was to advise the task force and ensure that rebuilding and recovery effort reflects the input of the communities that were most directly impacted. We're pleased to have Freeholder Thornton with us today to share information as a member of this task force. Welcome.
Thank you, Scott, and let me thank the Chamber. As you all well know from the very get-go, I've been speaking to you about how terrible this legislation has been and the impact it's going to have on Cape May County. But I definitely want to thank the Chamber, and I want to thank Frank LoBiondo and the Commissioner for being here today. So you don't know, the reason, you probably don't know, but the reason that I was assigned to the Sandy Task Force was because Frank LoBiondo called me and said, Jerry, they're creating a task force for recovery on Hurricane Sandy, and you have to be on it. And I'm getting your name to the president right away, and that's how I got on it. So thank Frank LoBiondo that we were represented. And Leslie Giminio and I, we traveled all over New York and Washington and Newark, and she was like my co-pilot and my professional advisor through that whole process, and she's in the back there. She was very, very, very good for all of us, believe me when I tell you. But you know, it was a shock in late November and December when we found out about the Biggert-Waters Act being signed by the President in July. And there we were finding out about the whole federal insurance program had changed. I mean, we were just beside ourselves what was going on. And, you know, we looked at the consumer and the flood insurance, the impact it was going to have on the consumer. Like hundreds of thousands of homeowners were being impacted, not only in Cape May County and New Jersey, but all across the nation. And the increase in the cost of that flood insurance was projected by Biggert-Waters in the range of 20 to 30%. But actual costs in some cases have exceeded 3,000%. In fact, if you have seen an article that Al Campbell sent me just the day before yesterday, in West Virginia, that's a central state, their flood insurance there increased 3,000 to 3,500%. And some of that, that's frightening. That's frightening. It'll destroy economies. And I will tell you that over and over again. I've been saying it from the get-go. You know, if you have a mortgage on a home, you're required to have flood insurance if you're in that area. And the rate increases are not going to be affordable for these homeowners. And many residents, particularly in Cape May County, are seniors, many of which are on fixed incomes. The county also has a significant population of individuals on disabilities in our population. Let's give you an example. Ocean City, Sal Perillo is here, former mayor of Ocean City. All of Ocean City is in an A zone, meaning all the properties require some type of flood insurance. 29.7% of the population of Ocean City is 65 years or older. In West Wildwood, 27.7% of the population is 65 years or older. The value of the homes will drop because of the flood insurance rates, and they're factored in as far as the owning a home, and they're losing equity in the homes. Now, you may say that some of the grant funding is available for raising homes and all that and coming up to standards. But, you know, the secondary impact on communities is the rateable base, as the homes are going to be disvalued. When they're devalued in this county, when we have 47% of our homes that are second homes, that are vacation homes, ladies and gentlemen, this is devastating here. Believe me when I tell you, this is devastating. I've been saying it from the very get-go. You know, and what does it do as far as local governments? We're sitting here with a 2% cap. Cape May County in the last 8 years has lost almost $8 billion in ratables. This will, again, destroy the ratable base of Cape May County and the tax base of Cape May County, not only the county, but every municipality. And then what's it do to the fabric of the communities? You're going to raise all these homes 10 feet in the air, and what's it going to do to the streetscapes? And when we talk about that, are the elderly going to be able to deal with this? In the barrier islands, in the densely populated area of the barrier islands, there's no way that you can raise a home. So you're not going to be able to meet the standards. Tell me how you're going to get a home in the Wildwoods that are on 30 and 40-foot lots, and they're all pushed together, how you're going to raise that home 10 feet. I've asked that question over and over again, and there's no answer here. So, the historic homes, the mayor from Cape May is here. We talked about historic homes. Did we ever get an answer about historic homes? I asked that question early on with the FEMA task force and never got an answer. I don't know what the impact's going to be there. The Delaware Bay shore communities, they were put at a major disadvantage post-Sandy because they didn't have the benefit of the advisory base maps. I will tell you that they were just struggling, at least, and I will commend the governor for coming out and saying, okay, we're going to use the advisory base maps, and that's the standard we're going to use right now, so that anybody that needs reconstruction will try to meet those standards. And that was a good call. I know there was a lot of criticism about it, but it was the right thing to do so that people wouldn't find out 6 months or a year or 18 months down the road that they didn't meet the proper standards. Now, the Board of Freeholders, what have we done here? Since last February, and we've been working with all of you and the municipalities to raise an awareness of the negative impacts that it's going to have on us in the county of Cape May. We've put out position papers. We've called for the suspension, the elimination of the subsidies until the economic impact studies are complete. That is one of my biggest criticisms of this legislation. This legislation was passed without looking and doing a study on the social and economic impact that it would have on all the communities. And I'm just not talking our communities. You've all heard me say this is going to have an impact from the state of Maine, every coastal community from the state of Maine to the state of Washington, every inland waterway, over and over again, and they don't study the economic impact of what this is going to do. This is bizarre. And also, we fought to expedite the process of the FEMA maps, which we did get some results. We lobbied for higher deductibles so property owners could mitigate and self-insure themselves. And we tried an education program with the property owners, trying to make sure that they reached the standards that we thought were necessary. We met with the governor's staff in Trenton in 2012 or 2013. And there again, we made our argument over and over again. We hired the Stockton to look at our advisory base maps here to make sure we were doing the right thing, and they did. And then I got on the president's task force, and let me tell you something. With the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Sean Donovan, and all the participation we had from the feds and the federal level, I was very happy I was there, because it gave us an opportunity, not only us here in Cape May County, but to be represented. But the people that were there were local government officials from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Rhode Island. And we had meetings in New York and Newark and Washington, D.C. We had conference calls every week. And finally, in August of 2013, we submitted the plan to the president. And in that plan, we promoted the resilient rebuilding and based on the current and future maps and some innovative ideas. And we also argued to ensure a regionally coordinated effort as far as infrastructure and mitigation. Now, here was the big issue. And Leslie was with me in Washington when it came up about the Biggert-Waters Act. Initially, and I will say this to you very candidly, when the final report was going to go to the president, it was not going to include our position on the Biggert-Waters Act and the impact it was going to have. Well, I can tell you that in Washington, with Secretary of Donovan sitting at that table and the Deputy Chief of Staff, and I will tell you honestly, you were well represented, because they knew by the time I got finished speaking and had all the support of the mayors and everybody from Long Island, the county executives from Long Island and everybody else, that they had to include that to be considered in this final analysis and the plan that went to the president as far as the impact that was going to have on the communities. And believe me, I will tell you, we did our job there, didn't we, Leslie? So, and it's interesting to note because one of the county execs from Nassau, I think it was Nassau County, Long Island, there he said, and it stuck with me and Leslie, we talked about it, and his quote was, "It's a sad day when we discover that our constituents were more concerned with the cost of flood insurance than they were concerned about the next flood." Now that's how frightening this has been throughout. And there was no recognition of the, again, I'll emphasize, about the impact that it was going to have on the economy. And a lot of this was just done without any forethought whatsoever of what it was going to do to all of you and all of us here in Cape May County. But I can tell you, we did get recognition of that this was not feasible, and we made that point over and over again. So we had some success with the task force. And another thing that we got, and Leslie's effort, I'm going to continue praising her, is that we just got an $80,000 grant for planning to develop a comprehensive plan for the county that will help identify our issues and some strategies in land planning. So the unintentional impacts of the Biggert-Waters Act is the projected cost of insurance increases from 20 to 30%. And in some cases, again, I'm going to emphasize 3,000% in some areas. Properties that were built, and this is another issue too, properties that were built in accordance with FEMA requirements and met all the codes may now be considered out of compliance, even if the homeowner had done nothing wrong and there has been no flooding. So it doesn't grandfather anybody in here. And then, you know, we got some of the news media who finally picked up on this after a while. ABC News reported projections of the new rates have caused anxiety among hundreds of thousands of homeowners. The loss of subsidies when homes are sold has put a damper on the real estate market and threatened home values. Some homeowners are snagged in a catch-22. They face rates that once phased in they won't be able to afford, but because of the higher insurance rates, they also face having to sell their properties at distressed prices. Now, the impacts are, as I said over and over again, home values are going to drop, property assessment drop, and municipalities are going to be a tax loss. Bank mortgages are going to go into default, and the banks are going to be left with some worthless assets. The federal flood insurance is finally, if people don't participate and can't afford it, it's going to fall apart. And I can tell you the coastal communities are going to be unviable area. The only people you're going to see in the coastal communities are those that are wealthy and can afford to have their homes destroyed. Maybe, just maybe, with if these premiums are left unchecked and we don't take, and I urge the Congress to address this issue. I really do. And I keep saying over and over again, I don't know whether it's viable. I've suggested to Congressman LoBiondo, suggested to everybody, just maybe if you made the deductible higher than what it is now, I think it's $8,000. I think you have to have a minimum claim of $8,000. But if you increase the rates 25% and increase the deductible up to $20,000 or $25,000, that may save the program. I'm just saying that. I have no idea whether it's viable or not, but the people I've talked to, they said they should try to do it and just cost it out and see if they can do it. Do I think that will happen? I don't. But again, the average claim, when we talked to the FEMA people back more than a year ago, they said it was about $38,000, $39,000 over it nationally. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank the commissioner and the congressman for being here. But I urge you to do everything in your power, and I urge the Congress. And Frank LoBiondo, I can tell you, He has shared his frustration with me over and over and over again about how difficult it is for him to get support down in Congress. And he's called me on the phone at 7 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night. And I will tell you, he's working very, very hard. And I'm going to give the governor's office, and particularly Mark Farzan, who was with us through all this. He was a very good representative of the state of New Jersey. So we've been fighting and battling, but it's really up to all of you and all your organizations to do whatever you can to put the pressure where it needs to be to get this law at least amended in some ways. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.